So yeah, man, like, how about Chicago sports right now with the Cubs and Sox, man?
It's awesome. I love it. You know,
We-
it gives us something to do every night, something to look forward to throughout the day. Isn't it like what we totally missed and like
Oh yeah.
all the months of it? Like I couldn't by the time we got to mid July, like I couldn't do the looking back stuff anymore.
True.
I just can't do that. I can't do the hey, remember when this took place 22 years ago? I just can't do that anymore. Like I need real stuff. We did that through the month of April and May and into June. I can't do that anymore.
It was great. I mean, reliving those Derrick Rose years and the
Yeah.
these Bulls. I was loving that, but
Yeah, it was cool, but like at a certain point, I want something new. You know,
Yeah.
like you hit the bottom of Netflix and it's like, oh Jesus, let's go.
you get to that point, there's some problems, brother. There's some problems.
Yeah.
So Bruce says you're a Sox fan, Chris?
Yeah, you know, it's actually I don't know if it's even interesting, but like growing up in Libertyville,
Okay.
everyone in the northern suburbs, everybody's a Cub fan, right?
Oh yeah.
So like by nature, I'm a bit of a contrarian. So like when I was a kid, I just remember thinking like there's almost nothing cool about the Cubs, but everything in like the early 90s was pretty cool about the White Sox. And I love Frank Thomas. And so I grew up a White Sox fan. Now, like of all the major sports, baseball is the one that I'm like the least passionate about when it comes to having like a favorite team.
Yeah.
So, you know, grow up a White Sox fan. They win in '05. I was in college. It was so cool. Like it was great. I loved it. I lived it. It was fantastic. I was at the United Center the night they won the World Series because they did viewing parties at the United Center. And so we went. It was awesome. I loved it. And then I got to a point where it's like, I just don't really care anymore. Like, you know, and
fair.
so like
fair.
the Cubs start getting good. And for what we do in covering sports is like, well, I need to know about both teams. So you end up watching equal amounts of both.
Yeah.
And like I'm cool. Like if both teams win, that's great for me. If I had to pick a side, I'd pick the White Sox. But like I have Cubs shirts and like I don't care.
That's fair. That's fair.
You know, like some people in this city like deeply care. I just of all sports,
Whoa.
you know. Well, no. What I'm saying is like if you told me, like you have to be a Notre Dame fan, I'd be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like I'm a USC fan, or like
Yes.
if you told me, hey, you have to be a Packers fan or a Vikings fan, like no, that's not going to work. Or like a Knicks fan, right? Like I hate the Knicks.
Yeah.
Like Cubs,
good with
White
that,
Sox,
yeah.
they're never competing for the same thing. It's a fabricated rivalry. So, you know, it's okay.
It does get heated though sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, rarely on the field though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all bickering between fans. Like, right? Like, right? Okay, I don't want to hold this up from starting the show, but
No, you're
like,
good, man.
like think about this. Ask yourself this: great rivalries in sports. When are they at their best? It's when they're competing in the
Right.
playoffs or for like the right to go to the championship series.
Truth.
Cubs and the White Sox don't compete for that. Now, this year is the one year that they actually kind of will factor in either or getting into the playoffs. But, you know, why are Bulls Knicks so great? Because they kept meeting in the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Yep.
Why are Bears, Packers, and Bears, Vikings? Well, they play each other so many times, you know, throughout the course of history. Yankees, Red Sox. Well, they play each other, and then they also have epic playoff series as well.
Right.
You know, that's the thing that's missing. If they were in the same division,
That would be amazing.
okay. Now I totally get the rivalry, right? If they're in the same division. But, you know, for the most part, they don't have any factor in the other one getting into the playoffs. So to me, the stakes are low. Thus, it's not as hot of a rivalry.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a fan of changing up divisions and things like that, just because I think the stuff's a little like watered down. And
Oh, that'd be cool. I'm with that.
I do. I really think so. But in any case, if you, MJ, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
I guess we can do the normal welcome instead of
Instead of the rambling.
Just randomly talking. Hey,
I mean,
guys.
I like the rambling welcome. I think that works. I mean, most of the stuff we do on here isn't really structured anyway.
Oh no,
So,
we wing the crap out of it. It's great.
Yeah.
But,
absolutely.
Go ahead, MJ.
Yeah, so I mean, just to welcome everybody, we've already been going for a little bit, but we've got Chris Bleck from ESPN 1000 here. So we're going to be doing just some random Chicago sports talk for the most part today. Do my best to piss off Bruce if I can, and mostly just instigate.
I'm in a very relaxed state of mind. Plus, I have some liquid that calms me.
I have my energy drink that hypes me up, so that's a good combination.
Good combo.
Yeah. So Chris, how have you been enjoying? I mean, we already kind of touched on it, but the start of sports, because we were without sports for so long, and I think the three of us can agree we're all pretty much addicted to sports for the most part. So how has it been to have live sports, not just to cover, but also just to watch and enjoy?
MJ, it's been fantastic because, I feel as if there was a lot of concern before during the pandemic and to the point where sports were starting, a lot of concern of like, how will it look? Will people really try? Or like, players are going to be in a bubble. How will they handle that for 2 months?
Right.
And then we get to the point where the sports start and they're handling it fine, right? Like NBA players are giving it their all every single night.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome. Baseball teams, the games matter. So everyone is giving it their all. It's awesome. And like the brilliance of sports is individuals, team or otherwise, coming together and competing for something. Right. And like, I think what we've missed over the course of all the months where there were not live sports was the random outcome of competition. And so once you put that back into the mix, you get a Blackhawks team that shouldn't be in the playoffs, who now are up 2-1 in a qualifying series, which could get them into the playoffs. So like, it's all about competition. And now that we have live competition back, it's great. Every single night there's something to watch and it all matters. And I think it's brilliant.
100%. And nice little segue, as they say in the professional business, to the Blackhawks. And I want to say welcome back again, Chris, officially to our little show. You've become, I guess, the first ever repeated guest. So I think that kind of makes you a friend of the show. So we appreciate it.
No problem. Absolutely.
But so one of the things that a lot of Blackhawk fans have been debating, and it's been all over sports talk radio too, is it worth them doing as well as they're doing right now, or should they get that higher percentage? What is it, 12 points? I can't remember but 12%. Should they continue to go for that, or go for the cup? In my opinion, I think there's no guarantees with regards to either. So if you have an opportunity to go for a championship, you go for the championship.
Yeah. And, it's the one thing, Bruce, where you look at it, and I'm just so sick of tank conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I get planning for the future. And, like, MJ, you're wearing a Warriors jersey right now. So, like, I get it. Like, this year was basically a tank for them.
Oh, yeah.
But if the players that they had were healthy, they would not be tanking.
No.
Like, that team would be in the bubble competing for a championship. But they had injuries, so they kind of just completely gave up on the season to thus get a great draft pick that they will then trade away for probably some superstar that we don't see coming in this offseason.
Probably.
So, like, with the Blackhawks, here's the thing. We all knew throughout this season that they were not good enough to make the playoffs. We actually have known that now for 4 years. They went 2 years where they lost in the first round of the playoffs, and then they went 2 years where they missed the playoffs. This is not a good team. They do have some stars and some guys who won cups in the past, and players who have come together, and they may shock the world and beat the Edmonton Oilers. But when I look at it, not making the playoffs in 2 consecutive years, and they were on their way to a third. You do have to have in the back of your mind, like, how are we going to plan for the future? Because Patrick Kane is not getting it done alone anymore.
No.
Jonathan Taves, at times this season, looked like he had bags of sand on his back as he was trying to skate up and down the ice. He looked slow. So, you have to question, is the percentage of landing the number one pick worth it? I'm just so sick of rooting for stuff like that. I want to see wins. And so, it may go against what we've seen, the trend of this team, where they're telling us for 3 consecutive years that they're not a playoff team. But in this short little sample size, man, isn't it fun to see them play and to play well and to be competing at this level? And so, I kind of want to answer both ways. Like, ideally, you would love to get that number one pick. Chances are you may not even get it, even if you miss making this qualifying round into the playoffs. So you might as well win the games in front of you. And I feel like that may have more impact on the younger players, right? Kirby Doc.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Guys like that going forward, if they win in series like that, I mean, look back to when the Hawks started winning cups. You could go back to the year before they won their first cup, and they got to the Western Conference Finals against the Red Wings, and that was like a stepping stone moment.
Yep.
And that series, even though they lost it, the next year they were ready to seize the opportunity. So I think you got to try and win the games, and I would prefer a team get into the playoffs now, take advantage of the most that's in front of them, getting led into this qualifying series, over rooting for, lose, we need a draft pick. I hate doing that. I'm so sick of rooting for draft picks.
Agreed.
Because you know why, guys? It rarely pans out. When does that pan
There's
out?
no guarantee. There is no guarantee. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think my internet lagged out there for a second.
Are we frozen?
No, I'm good. I'm back.
Oh, MJ, you were frozen.
Yeah, I know. I was frozen. It's fine. Chris, oh my gosh, Bruce. My internet froze, my brain froze. It's been a good day so far.
Hey man, it's cool.
Yeah. So I do think you make a very good point there. I think the biggest thing, and I've heard this from some of my friends who are Blackhawks fans, is the combination of sports being gone for so long and kind of the sentimental feelings that people have for guys like Kane and Taves. I think there's a lot of, they just want some of that old feeling of the old Chicago Blackhawks. And I don't even follow hockey that much, but I've still been picking it up of they've been, like you said, they've been winning games they have no business winning. So I think if they can just capture that feeling, like you said, it'll teach the younger guys what winning is like. And I think that's more important than any draft pick. It's the experience of winning, which can't be taught until you actually do it.
I would also add in this idea, like, if the three of us were running the Blackhawks, I would root for them to continue to win and do great things if they get into the playoffs. But I also wouldn't change the way I was going to approach this offseason based on this fluky bubble qualifying run. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel like anything that happens over the course of this fall with the NBA, the NHL, and Major League Baseball, you shouldn't alter your plans for the franchise based on the results we see with these strange tournaments that are going on. If you're running the Blackhawks, if you're planning on doing X, Y, and Z in this offseason and then the pandemic hits, I would suggest maybe you should stick to that plan when you get to that offseason instead of saying, scrap it. We qualified for the playoffs now. We're a playoff team. And then we get into next season. They don't make any changes.
Right.
And they prove that the last 3 years was right, and they're actually not a playoff team.
Right. And I think from that perspective, it's very businesslike. But as a selfish fan, you want to win. I get it, and don't get me wrong, I get it, because actually you were leading me to my next thought about what's going on with the Chicago Bulls.
He's already shaking
the
his
last
head.
time you were on too, we had a Bulls talk too, so it works out. But that being said, does and I'm going to say it fairly inappropriately, just so you know. Does Reinsdorf have Arturas help me out here?
Karnashovich.
Thank you, sir. Karnashovich, does he have his nuts in a jar right now because of the situation going on? It's
like,
true,
how does
though,
he have a job?
Is he seriously? Is he regretting having this job now?
I don't know.
Right. It's just a total hypothetical, like throwing it out there type question. But I don't know. It's right now. His hands are tied. He can't. It's tough. It's a tough situation now.
You'd have to guess that AK and Eversley are sitting around with their plan, their big picture plan for the Bulls, right? And I would guess they have to be questioning what they got into, because listen, if you wanted to paint a picture that keeping Boylen throughout the pandemic made sense because there was uncertainty on what the team was going to be required to do in this offseason or like in this summer, so you needed someone there to carry out, a loser's bracket, a bubble, a secondary bubble, or just like a loose training camp thing where there's no actual games, but maybe you scrimmage. I get that. But what seems fairly obvious now is that they should have fired Jim Boylen the moment that they removed Gar Forman.
100%.
Because now, like, here's what's worrisome to me. I think it was Chris Mannix on Sports Illustrated yesterday. He had a piece about how people in the Orlando bubble within the league are already talking about how a season next year might be completely unlikely to take place. Thus, the league may have to implement a bubble to carry on some form of a playoff to have something next season. So, like, they wouldn't have the 82 game season. They won't have the regular season. They may have to just say, all we can do right now are these tournaments where we create the COVID-19 bubble, where we test and everyone's safe and we get them all to one location. And then we do like pool play, like it's the World Cup. And then we play playoffs. And like, that's your 2020, 2021 champion, right? And if that's the case, that would mean you get to a point this next calendar year where AK and Eversley are trying to figure Boylen out based on some fluky set of circumstances to have either a season or a tournament. And that's not going to work. So like my whole point is you should have fired him and then gone after the person you wanted. So then whatever the future holds for the NBA, you're kind of starting with what you want instead of backtracking and saying, well, you know what, guys, in the Eastern Conference pool play where we played against 4 other teams for a week straight, we lost all 5 of those games and we're out of pool play. So now we're not going to play again for another calendar year. Like, how will you grade a coach on that? I don't think you can. So, like, unless they think he's the guy, which is also questionable to begin with, if that's what they think, I just don't see how this will benefit the Bulls in the long run, not making the move to this point. Like, I don't get what they're doing.
No, I don't get it either. And the only thing I thought of, I'm sorry, MJ.
Yeah.
The only thing I honestly thought of was using Boylen as a scapegoat.
A scapegoat for who, though? It's new management. So who are you scapegoating? Right,
and that's fair too. So I don't know. I'm just trying to find something.
Well, you guys know what it is, right? It's the organization, the White Sox and the Bulls are going to lose a lot of money, and they're not going to want to pay more money to tell a coach to go away. That's what it is.
That's fair.
The only thing I would also add is there's so much uncertainty right now. I mean, we saw the Knicks took a really long time to get Tom Thibodeau in the door.
What? I just said I miss him.
I know Bruce really wanted him to come back to Chicago, but that's a different rant for a different day. My only
I think Thibodeau wanted to come back to Chicago.
Did he?
That's what I've heard.
Really? Well, Bruce would have been a very happy man. But my only thing to like kind of play devil's advocate is maybe because of how uncertain everything is. Like you said, Chris, we don't even know what a 2020-21 season would even look like, whatever.
Right.
My only guess would be maybe the Bulls are sitting here thinking we don't want to throw a new head coach into that fire with not really anything, because then maybe they would get in trouble. Because if kind of along the lines of what Bruce said, if you keep Jim Boylan, you can blame him for the Bulls being bad in whatever pool play tournament season happens this year. And then after that, you can get your guy in the door once everything returns back to normal. Because if you get a new guy in with a roster that still isn't ready to win realistically in whatever happens in 2020, 2021, then it might make your new guy look bad, which then makes the new management look bad. So my only idea would be kind of along those lines, that because of the pandemic, that it could make their new head coach, who they really do want, they might still be able to get whoever they want. Obviously, I don't really know. I'm not involved in that. But, I mean, they might still be able to get who they want after whatever crappy bubble happens in 2020, 2021. And then after that, they can move on. I mean, so that's the only idea, kind of along what Bruce said, but also just, I mean, that I think they're looking at the fact that it might make them look bad if they bring in a new head coach and that doesn't go well, even though it wouldn't even be the fault of the new head coach.
What if I counter and tell you that players who are under contract want to force trades because they don't want to play for Jim Boylan?
I would not be surprised.
How will that look?
Go get Giannis.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
Bruce.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, Giannis wants to play for Jim Boylan.
That's not
happening with Jim Boylan here. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So you can have all the cap space in the world, and you can sell to, say, Chicago or whatever you want to sell. Players are not going to want to come here, let alone stay here, if Jim Boylan's the head coach.
You know what's unfortunate is we've heard that all too much in our times since the Bulls have were good. I think
wasn't that supposed to be the difference here? Was that like they went out and got people who are well qualified, who have a respect around the league, and Eversley used to be a Nike rep, and so like he has connections all over the league. Like that's a guy that you want leading your franchise. Yet if players are already complaining and through back channels making it known, like here's a reason why there's truth to it. Players had their meetings with management, right? It was reported that took place. Then there were reports that players feel now, like this has come out in the last week or two, that players don't feel like their voices were heard.
Yep.
Why is that getting out? That's only getting out because the players are unhappy with the situation.
Yeah.
If the players are happy with the situation, that information wouldn't be getting to the reporters who are then writing stories saying that the players are unhappy that Jim Boylan is still the head coach and that their voices, they thought this was going to be a player-friendly front office and that their voices are not being heard. That's only happening because Jim Boylan is still here. It's pretty easy, I think, but for some reason they want to keep him around.
So my question to you, one more question about the Bulls, and then we'll get off because they're just too frustrating to talk about. If you own the Chicago Bulls, I already know who my ideal person or coach that I would go after, or I would allow my constituents to go after. It would be Adrian Griffin. I love it. I love the idea of him. I love the pedigree that he has. He's a former assistant to the Chicago Bulls coaching staff before. What he did with the Raptors and that the offensive schemes that Nick Nurse has been running with that team. He's a part of that, obviously. So that said, what are your thoughts on if you had your ideal pick or candidate, who would that be, Chris, and why?
Bruce, that's it. Adrian Griffin. That's a guy I would go after. Why? He was here with Thibodeau when Thibodeau was having the great success with Chicago Bulls. You're right. He's gone to Toronto. He's been around the league. Players respect him. He's a smart guy. I like the way that he handles himself as well. Like his composure, I think is perfect to be an NBA head coach. That's the number one name I would go after. Udoko from the 76ers is a name that's out there that I would assume has connections with Eversley since he came from the 76ers as well. But I feel like Adrian Griffin is the perfect option because when he was here with the Bulls, there were rumors then that that was going to be the next Bulls head coach back then. This was before Hoiberg even. So he's paid his dues. It's time for him to get a job, and I think he would be great as a Bulls head coach. That's a great suggestion.
Interesting. So you would say it's a good question?
Great suggestion. I'm saying it's a good question.
Fair.
There's always confusion, right? Someone was tweeting the show earlier today of someone. First of all, I heard Jesse Rogers give that's $1 million question.
Yeah.
How about Jesse with that? Well, first of all, it doesn't count. For those who listen to the show, that's not a point. You have to say good or great question. And then someone else said that's an awesome point.
Yeah,
awesome point is not a good question.
Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty good though.
Close though.
Very close. Good try, Bruce.
I had to push for it a little bit. Why not?
It's such a stupid segment. It's great.
Come on,
it's
man.
So stupid.
Come
it's
on.
so stupid. Well, you know how he came up with it, right? You listen to all these hours of programming, and I would hear every so often someone be like, "Oh, Bruce, great question," and it would be a completely mundane question, the dumbest question possible. But the person answering just says good question to fill time to think of what they're going to say. I thought to myself, so then I started listening to it, and it really started to annoy me. I'm like, oh, we got to do something with this because it happens a lot. Almost at least 3 times a day it happens. So it's great. It's stupid, but it's fun.
I mean, from the question asking standpoint, I do appreciate when people say that's a good question. It makes me feel good, especially starting out. I'm like, oh, I asked a good question. It makes me feel good. But I do I've totally done that from then the speaking perspective, where I'm like, that's a good question. What's the answer? I'm gonna
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a stall tactic, but I've also received them and been like, nah, I didn't ask you a good question. You're just saying it 'cause you don't know what to say.
Yeah. It's either the time filler or I've also done it to kind of suck up to whoever is asking me questions.
Right.
You're like, oh yeah, Chris, that's a good question. I appreciate that.
Chris, that was a great point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Awesome point.
Good job, Bruce. I'm proud of you.
You like that? You like that? Man, I'm all over it today, man. All over it today.
So I mean,
go ahead, MJ. I'm sorry.
Now, Bruce, I'm gonna allow you to talk.
Wow, look at you. That's a great idea, MJ.
Oh my gosh. I quit.
If you don't mind, Chris, do you still have time to hang out with us for a little longer?
Yeah, go ahead.
You're awesome. So I know that I've been talking to a lot of friends about the. So we're gonna change topics to the Chicago Bears, by the way.
Sure.
So they've implemented awesome, I guess, for lack of a better term, ways to test for COVID and make sure all their players are safe. So that being said, would you be able to elaborate more on what is implemented at Hallis Hall right now?
So they from what they've told the media is they took extra protocols to what even the CDC and what the NFL is suggesting teams to go into. So I know that they have it set individuals who show up at Hallis Hall, they have 10 steps that they have to go through of testing, sanitization, and all these different elements to even get into the building. And once you're in the building, they have those tracking bracelets that can tell you whether or not you're too close to someone, who you've come in contact with, the possibility of it reads all their medicals too. I think they have that technology. So they can kind of predict who may come down with symptoms. I think it's great. I've read a lot that because they've renovated Palace Hall in the last couple of years. They have more space than most teams do at their facilities, so they can weight lift two separate groups at the same time because they have enough space. Where some teams only have one weight room, even though it's a big weight room,
Right.
they have to socially distance and they have to time out the different workouts. The Bears actually have two different facilities that they can use at the same time. Thus, they can actually get twice the work done because it can have multiple groups in at the same time. So, I mean, from what it sounds like, is like the Bears went above and beyond to set up what they could do to get everything in place to be safe for this football season. They even talked about having tests available for any family members who the players are living
Wow.
with. So if a family member feels as if they're coming down with a symptom or they came in contact with someone on the outside, they can then get tested immediately and then thus not infect the player that they live with. And let's keep this Bears bubble together. I think it's a daunting task to suggest a team of 90 players that they're going to be able to get through this without picking up the COVID-19 coronavirus. But I feel as if you prepare and you're aware of your surroundings and you're aware of like taking care of one another, you have a head start on a lot of people in this world. And hopefully that will go a long way. And hopefully we get football because I love the live sports and that's what we've been talking about. But man, would that really stink if we didn't get football in the fall?
Oh, I don't even want to talk about it.
That would make me so sad. But I think the biggest thing is, like you said, it's so hard to keep so many players safe. I mean, we've seen Major League Baseball struggle to some extent with keeping players safe, and even then, it was only players who have gone outside, basically outside of the Major League bubble, casino, and then there was one club for the Marlins. So I mean, it really has been.
Getting wings.
What'd you say?
Getting wings, dude. Getting wings.
Yeah, that. So I mean,
nice.
Bruce had to go there, but I mean, it's been so hard for Major League Baseball to keep everybody contained. But I do think that the NFL has the advantage that they're the last league to start play. They're the last league to come together, so they have all of this data, if you even want to call it that, of what works, what doesn't. So they can see with Major League Baseball, here's what works. Major League Baseball has had to strengthen all of their restrictions. Players can't even leave their hotels now once they go back. They go to the ballpark, they go back to their hotel. At least that's the way it's supposed to be. So I think the NFL has the advantage of that. But then at the same time, I think it's also going to be very difficult, like you said, because the rosters are so much bigger. So, I mean, they have 53 guys at least, and then you go into practice squad and all of that. So, I mean, that'll be the biggest challenge. It'll really just be how much do all the players want to play a full season? And time will tell, but my hope is that everybody will kind of buy in and do their best to keep everyone safe.
Yeah, and I feel like this is all something that we can all understand because I feel as if many people are taking these same precautions. Now, I don't have the advantage of getting tested twice a week and knowing for sure. But like I can tell you since early March, like my wife and I don't hang out with the same amount of people that we used to in the past. Like our friend circle has gotten very small to the people that we know who are like taking it seriously. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of, and also like where we go, right? Like we're not going to bars and hanging out at bars all day, even if they're open, like if anything, we're going to eat outside and we're doing things outside and we're trying to be aware of who we're coming in contact with and what we're doing. And I feel like if you're around people who have that same mindset, hopefully everyone's okay. And if there is the off chance that someone is not, if you have that mindset, theoretically, you should be able to limit the amount of exposure, right? So like, even if you get it, if you're only coming in contact with a few people, maybe a couple of people that you work with, or a couple of people in your personal life, if you happen to get it, that's a very small circle to kind of shrink and be like, okay, well now only you and you have to kind of quarantine and be aware of what's going on. Where you know like that's the problem with, I think, the baseball players, is that not only are they around a lot of people in their work environment, but some of them were openly going around a lot of people just on their free time.
Yep.
And like, I think that's, not to go on a tangent, but I think that's the major misnomer with this virus, is that people want to argue about masks. People want to argue about the amount of tests the country has ran, or the amount of deaths, or whatever it is. The key to all of this is to limit the amount of people you're around.
Yeah.
Like if we all keep our distance and we all kind of take the precautions that they suggested, washing your hands, wearing a mask, and just stay away from other people, theoretically, the numbers will just come down naturally.
Yeah.
Right.
Like there doesn't have to be a great vaccine or something to save us. It's like we could get it lower to a point where we could all kind of go about our normal day-to-day lives, as far as normal goes in the pandemic. But like, I feel like that's where there's confusion, because people are like, well, if I have a mask with me, I can be around 100 new people today. And it's like, well, one, you have to wear it. Number two,
there's no guarantees.
There's no guarantees. And number three, if you're wearing a mask, but Bruce comes walking up to me and he's not, it doesn't do me any good.
Yeah.
It's the whole buy-in. Like, everyone needs to do it, and we all kind of need to stay away from each other still.
And
there goes me asking if you want to go golfing this weekend.
Dang it, Bruce.
Well, listen. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I've been golfing this entire summer, and it's fantastic. But to be honest, I'm golfing with the three other guys that I've been golfing with this entire summer. We're not sharing anything. And we're outside for 4 or 5 hours out of a day, which is fantastic. So, like, I've been to a couple of courses that, like, have kind of given up on the COVID-19 protocols. Like how like early they were putting the rings in, so you didn't have to reach into the cup. Like I feel like some courses have like given up on that stuff, but like we don't take out the pins. I'm not touching the rakes. Like, sorry, if you hit into the sand trap and you hit into my foot marker that I kind of use my club over, like, I'm sorry, it's not perfect. COVID-19. Sorry,
COVID-19.
Like, just move the ball over a little. You're not Tiger Woods. Like, you'll be okay.
Fair enough.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I've been golfing. I've gone at least every weekend for over a month and a half now, and like, it's been great, and it's something to do, and it's fun. But we're not hanging out in the clubhouse afterwards. I'll tell you that much. We're going right home.
Yeah.
Right. No, honestly, we've actually been doing the exact same thing. We've been golfing every weekend since they allowed golfing in Illinois. So is that April, May?
Yeah. We didn't start in May. We were like, let's kind of see how it goes, and we kind of early June-ish. But yeah, like, and Bruce, like, what have you seen out there? Like, I've seen a mixed bag. Like, I've seen people who are very careful, and then I've also seen people who are not doing any protocols.
We as a group, we use common sense essentially. When we go in to check in, we're all wearing masks and everything. And the places that we've been to only allow one person at a time from whatever group to check in. They still have the rings inside the hole, so if the ball isn't going in. We're not touching. I don't really see anyone taking out any of the pins or anything, so that's fine. Actually, the courses that we've been to, there haven't been any rakes still.
Oh, really? Yeah, I was somewhere on Sunday, and they had rakes on, and I thought that it was strange, but
we saw it. We saw it at one place, and it's actually the first time I've ever been there. But it was actually a really nice course, by the way. Nice in that it was a very big fairway, so I didn't have to worry as much about my slicing.
There it is.
But to be honest with you, it's been fine. I really haven't. With regards to the patrons, though, being there, you get some people though that seem a little bit more careless, I guess. But
It's also golf. So like you go, you pay for your round. You don't really have to see anyone the rest of
right,
the day, you know.
right,
So
right.
And
Man, we really like totally tangented on that one. That was great though.
No, but to
Like,
kind of bring
golf
it
is fun.
back, to kind
That's
of
true. I love golf.
yeah, golf is great. I'm awful because I'm a baseball player, so you know that swing kind of messes
why
it up.
you have the swing?
It's
What's
true.
wrong?
Come on, Jay.
Club speed. Club
ooh.
speed. Come on.
I mean,
Just hit it far.
I wish. I wish. Just hit it far. That's like people telling me to just throw strikes. That's great. I appreciate that, Chris. No, but seriously, to kind of bring it back, it really is true that, like your guys talking about, you can still do some of your normal things. You just have to be a little bit more careful. Like you can still go to a restaurant. There are just a couple more things that are a little bit abnormal, but you can still go to a restaurant and you can still kind of live your day-to-day life. We just need to be more careful. You can still have a small social circle. It's just like you said, Chris, you need to make sure that you know the people you're hanging out with and how carefully are you taking it. Don't sit next to your friend and cough all over them. Like, it's common sense that I think people need to understand. And a lot of these protocols are common sense. Like, hey, wash your hands after you touch something. Wash your hands before you touch something. Things like that. And I think that needs to be translated to all major sports as well. We're seeing when Major League Baseball players use common sense, they're pretty much okay. They're doing well. When you don't use common sense, it doesn't go very well. And so, I mean, to your point, as long as the NFL uses common sense, they should be okay. It'll just be in a league where we already see guys getting in off the field trouble anyway. How much will they be able to kind of rein that in and focus on their sport instead of focusing on their social activities?
Don't you guys also kind of feel like the NFL should be the one sport that should take it the most serious, only because nothing's guaranteed in an NFL career. So like their careers are so short, like you kind of have to play this season. You know, like a baseball player, okay, you go to a casino, oh, the Marlins are only going to play 12 games this season. Well, okay, guess what? I'm a Marlins player next year. You know, like
right.
I kind of feel like football players have the most at stake.
Yep.
You know,
that's true. And I mean, in looking at it from that perspective, I don't recall the amount of games that players have to play in order for them to be eligible for benefits. But isn't it like 4 or 3 or something ridiculous? There's some kind of
for football players or baseball players.
Football players.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
I think it's 4.
So I think from the rookie perspective, they need to play because they don't necessarily.
Right.
I don't think that there's some kind of change in contract that's going to say, okay, John Doe is going to be able to get his benefits this year or whatever. I don't know. It's just there's a lot of things going on with COVID-19 and a lot of changes that need to be made, and it's just disappointing to me. Selfishly, again, as a fan, that some teams aren't taking it as seriously as they should, causing it a ripple effect to make my teams get affected.
Right.
Yeah.
But, so that said, actually, I kind of want to get your thoughts on the new guidelines that the Major League Baseball sent out. What was that?
Finally, yesterday
this afternoon. Did you get a chance?
Yesterday. Yeah.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. So did you get a chance?
Yeah, I think Jesse Rogers reported that on ESPN.com. Hey, they should have been doing this all along. You know, like they put in their protocols to start, and players were immediately spitting on the field and not wearing masks in the dugout and kind of just going about their business like it's normal times. So yeah, they should have implemented this from the start. And obviously the surgical masks while they travel is because of what happened with the Marlins.
Right.
Because they think that it could have been traced to a flight attendant who worked one of their flights coming from Atlanta. So, it's smart, right? Just implement more protocol. Like, I don't understand this idea where they thought that they were going to be able to go through the entire season without a hitch and not have extreme protocols in place during these extreme times. They should have been doing this.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. And one of the things that MJ and I actually spoke on last week was the possibility of players opting out. So, do you think, and in my personal opinion, I don't think we're going to see any major football or basketball, or well, obviously not basketball, but football or baseball players opt out that are of major marketing ability. So you won't see like Mike Trout. He was considering
Yeah.
opting out, but he didn't opt out. And while baseball doesn't have the marketing ability as football, I just don't think you're going to see like a Tom Brady decide to opt out because he's got a TB12. Or I mean, yes, and I haven't looked at it recently the list, but Eddie Goldman was the most known player to opt out because of COVID-19. And
Right.
I just don't think that you're going to see big market guys opt out right now.
I don't think so either. Like, let me ask you guys this. Out of the 32 quarterbacks, will any quarterbacks opt out?
No.
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 So
They're
I
not
don't think
gonna-
anyone's going to opt out.
Number
I mean,
one,
Yeah, there's going to be players in the league that opt out, and I know SportsCenter showed last night like a list of notable names, right? And Bruce, you're right about Goldman and like others who are opting out. But let's be real, the NFL is all about quarterbacks,
Right.
and if the quarterbacks are all there, like the marquee matchups that we see on TV will still matter. Like
Yep.
that's the thing that always I point to is like nothing ruins my Monday like knowing that there's a prime matchup on Monday Night Football, but we get two backups. Or like one of the stars is hurt. So
Yeah.
like Deshaun Watson's not playing, and you're like, well, what am I gonna do now? Like
no reason to
whole
watch the
point
Texans
of
now.
getting jacked up for NFL games is stellar quarterback play. And I get it, like
Exactly.
you can debate like old school smash mouth football is great. I'm not gonna disagree with you. But if you look at TV ratings, when you get stud quarterbacks going against each other,
Yes.
it almost always delivers. And so, I agree. I don't think there's going to be any big names, any names that like shake the sport. Because you know why? In football, we would have already heard about it at this point.
Yep.
Because all these players are reporting, they're all in the testing protocols, and they're all starting to prepare to try and win.
Yep.
So like, at this point in the game, you're really screwing your team, which Andrew Luck did last year. But, outside of something like that taking place where someone's like, I'm just not playing again, which you can never tell in the NFL, I think that they're going to be okay. I think the players are going to be involved in what they're trying to do. I think we'll get the stars participating.
And I think the biggest thing will be, especially with a quarterback, they make the most money in the NFL. So the ridiculous drop off between somebody even like because there was speculation over Matthew Stafford because he was on the COVID-19 list, which is just because he had symptoms and then he tested negative, so he's all good to go. But even somebody like Matthew Stafford, who isn't necessarily a huge name quarterback, he's not on the Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady level. Even him, he has so much money to lose just that alone from going to from whatever he makes to the 350,000 that is for the I think it's 350 if you have like high risk and it's like 150 if there's no risk. So I mean that ridiculous drop off. Players have a lifestyle that's supported by the amount of money they make. And so I mean just in terms of like selfish reasons alone, they want their money. And obviously, yes, they don't want to screw their team. The short shelf life of an NFL player, 3 or 4 years, those are reasons too. But just the money alone is a reason I think we won't see many NFL's players opt out, especially quarterbacks.
Totally agree with you. I mean, it's why, like, for the most part, all of the NBA players who are relevant are all in the Orlando bubble.
Yep.
Like, name a player of like actual weight, a player who like actually matters as far as marketing, team winning. Like
they're all
Trevor Ariza didn't participate because he has family situations where he needs to be outside of. I get that. Cool. To be honest, Trevor Ariza, you're like the 8th man on your team. Like
he's the 8th man on the Kings, which is
you
says
don't
something
matter,
even more.
Right? Like, you don't matter.
It's true.
So, like, the fact that all of the stars bought in and all of them are there participating. I know in the last day or two, we're starting to see some of this, like, resting and LeBron's not playing, and Jimmy Butler hurt, pulled something. Okay, he's going to rest. And James Harden's going to have a rest. Like, for the first couple of days, like, they were all there and they were all participating and they're all playing well. So I think it's cool. And I think we'll see the same thing with the NFL.
And I do think in the bubble, it's interesting. The games have been so much closer than normal games. I think especially at first, everyone was so excited to be back playing basketball that they were all going 110%, even if their seeding games didn't inherently matter. Like, the Lakers don't really need to play, but they still had close games, although today against OKC, they did not look very good. But I mean, in general, all the games have been really close, and I think that builds the excitement, that builds their engagement because they're really competitive. I mean, that's why they're professional athletes, because they're hyper competitive. So I think also just being in close proximity with everybody, it's like you're all kind of in it together, but then you're competing, and so it just kind of heightens that.
Well, MJ, think of it this way. They lopped off the 8 worst teams.
Right.
So when you get a pairing of Lakers-Knicks, there's a chance that that's going to be a blowout. Mm-hmm. And probably more times than not, that's going to be a non-competitive game.
Right.
You eliminate the 8 bad teams in the league, and now you're only getting teams who are somewhat competitive to very competitive. It completely changes the dynamic, because when you have a Suns team who they're trying, right? Like, they may not win the NBA title, but they're not a team that's just rolling over, right? Like, they're there to compete. Like, you get totally different outcomes when, like, Portland's on the outside looking in. They have to win games. Well, now they're playing the Bucks. Now they're playing the Rockets. What is this going to look like? Like, that's really interesting. So,
yeah, it is. And I think the NBA is, I mean, I think they're the best place to go into the bubble in terms of their product is still just as exciting. I think the NHL too, but obviously the NBA has more marketing power generally across the country. But I do think that the NBA specifically, what, Bruce? Did I freeze? Did I freeze?
You were just going through the matrix for a moment.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll accept that. But yeah, I think the NBA specifically is the league that is best designed to be able to go into a bubble, not really have fans, and still survive.
AAU basketball, baby. AAU basketball.
Yeah, basically.
That's 100% what it is.
I also saw something that was like the depth perception in the gyms is better because they don't have all the fans behind them. I don't know if you saw that, Chris. It was on.
They have those LED boards like right behind the rims too.
True.
You notice that they put those big video boards right behind the baskets, where in a normal arena, that is way beyond. Like that wall of seats or wherever those suite level that's behind the basket is like way beyond it, where these video boards are right behind the basket. So it gives the impression that like you're in a close gym situation.
Yeah.
Right. So no, exactly. So I'm not gonna lie, I've researched on how to put my face on one of those fan screens.
Did you do it?
I thought about it. It'd be pretty damn goofy if I did, though. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You can just email all of the teams, and then there was a guy.
I saw some kid do that.
Yeah, and he got on like
on social media. He sent a message to all the teams, and someone got back to him, and he ended up being on like
5 or 6.
I think it was like 3 or 4 or something, 5. Yeah, something crazy.
That's awesome.
Shaq was hilarious. I don't know if you got a chance to see Shaq on there.
Yeah, I saw that.
Dude, that dude is just. I will consistently say the TNT pre-game show is one of the best shows of all sports that you could possibly watch before any sporting event.
Because they just roast each other the whole time.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. It was better before Shaq, but it's great.
Oh, are you not a Shaq fan, Chris?
I love the dynamic between Shaq and Barkley. Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, if they could talk some basketball in between, it'd be nice.
Wow.
Barkley also chose. Who did he pick? No, I'm sorry. Shaq chose the Nets to win
Well, listen. I think it's well documented that those guys don't watch basketball. So,
So great.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think Barkley is still trying to suggest that Golden State's not going to win a title because they're a 3-point shooting team. So, I don't know what century he's watching hoops in, but
I mean,
I mean, the Rockets have to take 64 threes in a game now in order to win because they don't know how to play. They don't know how to do anything else.
hey,
So
man, when you're running out guys who are 6'4" as your center,
as your center, right?
that's what drives me crazy is like, especially, I really want to see the Lakers just throw AD in the post every single possession against the Rockets. I want him to score 100. Like, just abuse PJ Tucker. I mean, because he's so much bigger. Like, I get the idea that you still want to run your offense, but at some point, like, just let LeBron and AD abuse the fact that the Rockets don't have anybody over 6'7". Like,
right?
I know I'm not a basketball genius, but I feel like that's pretty obvious at some point.
I totally agree.
That's pretty
Totally
good.
agree.
I've never seen MJ get into a breakdown like that about basketball before. That's pretty entertaining, man.
Okay, it just drives me crazy because like obviously Warriors. I like the Warriors. And part of the reason I love watching the Warriors is because it's just a very smooth brand of basketball. Like, it flows well. They know what they're doing. They're extremely well coached. So it just drives me crazy when I see James Harden go up and chuck 33s, take 30 free throws, and that's the only reason that they're good is just because they just like statistically analyze what the best way is to win. And like,
It's
I get that.
2000s basketball right there, man. Come on.
But it's
Why
different
don't you
than
stop it? If it's bad, stop it.
the Warriors did. The Warriors stop it all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah, I mean they got damn close though. The Rockets got very
True.
close.
They
That
did.
game 7 could have gone either way.
It's because Chris Paul got hurt.
Think about this. Ready? This is gonna blow your mind. Say Chris Paul doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
Rockets win game 7. They're champs now. Does the pandemic even happen?
Oh, oh
What
man.
did-
I'm just saying. I think like so many people build this case that the Rockets can never win because like what MJ is suggesting that Harden only does his ISO, shoots so many threes,
It's
gets
true.
to the free throw line. It's like you do realize that like in the next month or so the Rockets might win this damn thing, and then like you have to readjust your life like principles based on that. Like
No, I don't have to
They can
adjust.
win it.
Chris, I don't have to adjust my life principles. I will just say that that's the only reason they won is because no. Bruce, listen to me. I will say that's the only reason they won because they got rid of the pureness of basketball and they just looked at it. They
said
became
let's take
robots.
this algorithm and let's just do it
Exactly.
every single time.
You know what's amazing to me though is Mike D'Antoni was able to adjust styles of play in 2 decades. 2 decades. The way he did it with he's a great coach. He's a great coach. But yeah.
He's just a robot at this point. It's not good coaching. He's a robot. He's just looking at plugging in the nut. He doesn't even do anything. He just has people feed him. Here's what you need to do to win. He's not even coaching at this point.
Wow, you're that guy.
Just wait when the algorithm wins out and Daryl Morey is a champion. Just watch out.
No, I will say that I do think the Rockets have one of the biggest advantages from the bubble and the time off because we all know James Harden gets tired because of how high his usage percentage is. So I mean, he and LeBron do have the biggest advantage. So I do think the Rockets will make a deeper run than they would have under the normal circumstances, but I still don't think they have a shot against the Lakers. I still don't think it happens.
We're gonna have to touch base on that next week, dude. Just so you know.
We are out of time, but I can't with the Rockets. I can't do it.
But yeah, Chris, honestly, thank you so much for dropping in again this week. You didn't even have to stay for the full hour, but the fact that you did, that's pretty awesome. And it's greatly appreciated. So obviously, you're welcome anytime. Not only here, but we have an open spot on Sunday if you want to play.
Thank you for the invite, Bruce, MJ. Appreciate it. And I hope my unfinished office worked for you guys here on this Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
I know it looks terrible behind me, but
It looks
we moved a couple weeks ago, and I haven't gotten around to fixing up the office yet. So
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the move.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. It's the word. Don't move, guys. Don't move.
I'm in
yes.
I'm in
Yeah,
my
I'm
sister's
I'm not
basement
looking
right now
forward to
because my
it.
parents are moving.
It's awful. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sucks.
Yes.
It's not,
But thank you again for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Chris. Anytime.
no problem.